seconds.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah. What is going on, everybody? Today is Monday. Yes, Monday, January 24th, and this is On the Pipe Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Shepperton. But joining me today is a little bit of a surprise, a little bit of something that we've been working on, a little bit of something that we're going to try out and see how it goes. Today, I am not just the host of On the Pipe Podcast, I'm the co-host of On the Pipe Podcast Weekend Reviews with Stu, and I'm joined by our new co-host, Steward Baylor. Stu, what's going on?
Oh, not a whole lot. Just got done with dinner. Checking in on the guys for the week and trying to get everything kind of rolling here at the Shoals for the week. Get our riding plans together and everything else. So we usually like to try to do like Sunday, Monday dinners, trying to chat with some of the riders as well as the track trainer and everything like that. So kind of went over the race this weekend with Liam and a couple of the other riders and just trying to wrap our heads around what the game plan is.
So what is a typical week like down there at the Shoals? I mean, I think anybody that has social media sees you guys making a push, and it looks like you guys have the best dirt. I don't know how you do it. There's snow on the ground. You look at the Shoals Instagram, perfect dirt. There's 4 inches of rain. Look at the Shoals, perfect dirt. So you guys have a lot of good things going for you down there. What's a typical week like down at the Shoals?
It's very busy. I mean, to replicate those conditions day in and day out, there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes. You know, we've got my cousin Drew Calloway, and then Dylan.
Wait, Drew Calloway's your cousin?
No. Sorry,
two
separate people. Sorry. Yeah, so my cousin Trent Wood, and then Drew Calloway, and then Dylan, who is the owner of Tear Off Gaskets, is also our track trainer. So we've got those 3 guys running wide open to try to get the tracks prepped. We've got everything backed up by an app to try to keep everything organized. So got our track guys on an app, so that they all can communicate and make sure our tracks are good day in and day out. Whether they need water, we've just bought a 6,500 gallon articulated water truck. Or right now, obviously, we don't need water, so we can't even ride our motocross tracks unless we cut 10, 12 inches, which is near impossible to get the dirt back on. So we've been just trying to make the best of what we can every day, and that's what they've done. So just a lot of random things, a lot of work. But it's just normal, and yeah, obviously you guys can follow along with the Shoals MX and also my stories and tracks and training, which is Dylan's Instagram as well, and kind of see what we're doing. Like obviously, racing is probably overthought if anything, but we're not recreating the wheel. There's things that work and there's things that don't. So we've got 5 days on a week, and our off days are usually consumed by, mine is now consumed by my kid. And it seems like paperwork, which who would have thought that a dirt bike racer would even know what papers are. But so that, and then the rest of the guys are out on the track trying to keep the tracks up on those off days. But all the riders just completely off, and our balance is kind of 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off. And we try to get the most out of this group day in and day out. But again, not trying to recreate the wheel, and we'll definitely post it on social media so you guys kind of tag along and see exactly what's going on, unlike others.
And not to give away too much of your industry trade secrets here, but what's the mix like? Like I've always wondered that. Like for you guys, what you're doing, what's the mix between, like off the bike workouts, riding the bike? Do you guys ride every day? Do you skip a day, or is that top secret information?
No, there's definitely no top secret information. I mean, if you guys wanted to see like what's going on at Ranch Russell, obviously there's some top secret information down there because, well, hell, it's pretty obvious they're told like not to post anything. I think we've seen, let me date back, since January, we've seen a knee brace photo from Ben, nothing from Craig, nothing from Trevor. I think Trevor's girlfriend posted a story of them bicycling. There was a video.
Now that you say that, I did like. Now that you say that, there has been a social media blackout. It seems like down there. That posted yesterday.
It's 100%. I mean, I don't know what they're doing or what they're trying to accomplish. Maybe it helps their mindset, but no, I'm trying to figure that one out too. And obviously, I just like talking shit. I like all those guys. Like, I'm good buddies with Caleb and pretty much everybody down there. So no beef, but I just enjoy stirring the pot when I can. Like, it's fun for me. And if they get butt hurt, well, too bad. I'll make them a shirt. So,
now, like social media, one thing that you and I kind of talked about the other day was that whole social media thing. And it seems like you've been making an even bigger push. Obviously, always been in the social media game and posting things, but now we got like the Bush beer thing coming up and just everything that you've been posting through the off season. And now you're kind of comparing other people's training methods compared to what they're posting on social media and not posting on social media. What do you think the biggest benefit of having that presence is? I mean, I think that goes pretty far as when you're looking for jobs, looking for sponsors, looking for marketability.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, I understand. Most people think I'm just the dumb dirt bike racer, so they don't think that I understand everything that goes on. But so like algorithms with Instagram, basically, if you don't take action on people's posts, they'll start what I would classify as like shadow banning, which technically isn't shadow banning. They basically just don't show you that page anymore. So you may have 800 followers, but only ever see the same posts over and over. So like for me, it's always been Kelly because I'm so worried about what he's doing day in and day out. And then GNCC and On the Pipe podcast, like just the things that I engage in are always there. So, that's the – but no, on a serious note. So that's
the number one in the search bar.
Yeah, so, and then obviously a lot of bow fishing, Crocs, bush beer, a lot of half-naked women, and a lot, like more than anything, equipment running. Like that's all that fills up my page. That and good cooked steaks, medium rare, obviously. So no, that's so the way social media works. Like basically, you have to post to create engagement, and engagement drives people to your posts repetitively. So, for me, for others that are trying to let's say get an outside of the industry sponsor, if you don't post anywhere from twice to 4 or 5 times a week, and obviously there's overkill, like let's just pick on, since I'm picking on some people, let's pick on those Rockstar ads. Like, so when I saw a Rockstar ad, I would just scroll past it. Well, yeah. Now that basically takes, so now I've scrolled past Craig DeLong and Trevor Bollinger so many times that I no longer actually see them pop back up on my feed. So, that's kind of the way social media works, and you've got to work it with a good balance. So right now I've done a lot more with the social media. We're trying to do some edits and basically help grow my name as a brand so that I can hopefully sell myself to outside of the industry sponsors. Obviously I'm getting to where, I'm no longer one of the younger kids in the sport. I'm middle-aged to older now. So, that's like, you're starting to think about retirement. You got to think about, okay, what is going to sell yourself beyond racing? So, I have a large following. I have a very active following. So that's kind of what I'm trying to push on right now. So when guys take their month hiatus from social media, yeah, it sounds great. Like obviously you're not interacting or engaging with anything, but what is it actually truly doing? It's basically what I would say depreciating a rider's value. Because nowadays in the last 3 years, things have changed on rider contracts to where it's not just about what can this guy do on Sunday. It's how does this guy present himself and sell our brand? Is this guy going to sell our brand on Monday when the race is over and he got DNF, or is he gonna be able to promote us on a bad weekend because he sucked? Like, is he still gonna be able to stand up there with a smile on his face? So, when I'm looking across the board, like that's more or less, the social media side is huge. It's kind of almost our selling platform as much so as our riding ability. So, moving forward, I think we're going to see more and more contracts that are driven towards the social media side. And, the companies are finally starting to figure out, like, bought followers don't engage. And you can see guys that have, let's say, 209,000 followers. One of the other pro racers, and his average likes are like no better than mine at 50,000 followers, 57,000 followers. So it's obvious this guy doesn't have engagement because he paid for his followers. Like, there's things to where you can see what is going on. But that's the tough part. Like, you've got to stay active. You've got to promote yourself, and you've got to walk that fine line of what's too much and what's too little.
That is one part of it that blows my mind too. And I didn't plan on starting off hot and heavy with a social media rant, but a lot of these younger riders especially, and everyone coming up in the sport, and everyone that's been here for a while, been there, done that, been getting results for a decade, I think everything, like you said, is trending so much more towards that exposure and that marketing and what you represent as yourself, because at the end of the day, they're paying to get their name, their brand, their products in front of as many people as possible. So whether that's winning races every weekend or broadcasting to 100,000 people every night, I think it's such a key part in all this, especially for guys like you that are making a living at it. But that is one of the funny things and that you mentioned is, like, you'll see these guys that have 12,000 followers, and you go to their posts and they're getting 100 likes, 110 likes, 140 likes. And then you kind of look at their followers, and their followers are random Russian bots that aren't following anybody else. So, I mean, you keyed in on it. How much do you think brands and companies and things see that? Like, oh, well, the followers are there, but then actually look into it and realize that those followers aren't real followers?
So for the last 3 or 4 years, it was something that was very overlooked. Now, since Instagram, Facebook has basically given us these insights, I'm trying to work on some deals personally with some certain companies, and they're more interested in my insights, my active engagement, my true accounts reach per month, and my geographic following. One big thing for me is I fall in a category to where 91% of my followers are male, and of that 91%, 96% of them are between 18 and 49. So if you look up what is the perfect sales, or what I'm trying to think of the word, I'm slipping here. Demographics for alcohol sales, it's 18 to 49. I fall perfectly in the category.
Yeah, let's say 21 to 49.
That's what I was trying to figure out too. But if you look it up, it says 18 to 49. So, I mean, honestly, I'm not sure when you started drinking, but I was drinking from like 12. So whatever. It should be 12 to 49, whatever.
Yeah, like your works out over there. Yes.
But no, so like a lot of things are based on your demographics. And I think that they're starting to catch on to these ghost followers, if you will. Yeah. Basically that it's a big hoax. Like I see it. I mean, you can scroll through and see who's got it, who doesn't. Like, you can see, like, my following is like on a good post, I get 30% interaction, like, and that's good. Like, most guys scroll by it, they see it, and I'm guilty of the same. Like, you don't take interaction in post, which is fine, but it does affect guys whenever they're trying to sell their brand, on the interactions. But it's obvious, if you say an average post, 10% of your followers like jump on a good one, a bad one like 5%. Like, you can see kind of who's got the followers and who's bought the followers. So, but aside from that, I kind of want to talk more about the racing, the off season. So,
well, real quick, before you get into that, and I don't mean to cut you off, and please don't lose your train of thought. At the beginning of this, I feel like we kind of breezed by it and got over the hump very quickly. But speaking of branding and building the brand and getting your name out there, I think you have done one of the best jobs of anyone in off-road racing as far as building that brand. I mean, you look at something that GNCC posts, for example, and read half the comments, and they're talking about you. And like your following and the people that engage in your content, it's kind of unique into what you've built, especially over these past couple seasons. I mean, even before that too, but I think it's grown exponentially over the past couple seasons. But at the beginning of this, the part that I mentioned that we breezed right over, and the part that you and I talked about before this, is every Monday I had the idea this year in the typical shows that I do, the OTP Tuesdays, I do like a 30 to 45 minute rant about the weekend. What happened, here's who won, here's who got second, blah, blah, blah. Any big storylines, we talk about that, and then I would go into interviews. So one of the things that we're working out and that you and I have talked about is now that first portion that's normally on the Tuesday shows, we're putting that all on its own show on Monday, so recapping the weekend. And you're going to be joining for, right now we're loosely saying every other Monday. It's probably going to be after GNCCs, after big races, big events, things like that. But first of all, thank you for your time for doing that, and kind of where we've gone with OTP in the past up to this point, and now you joining on board, I feel like adds a lot more validity to the things going on, especially with you being one of the top guys in the sport, and you to be able to come on, talk about a race that you were just in the day before, and talk about like this past weekend, US Sprint Enduro. You weren't there, but there's things to talk about. So I think it's cool to get your perspective and to have that coming at a regular basis. So for one, thank you for your time and for doing this, and I really think that we could be onto something cool here. But from your perspective, what was kind of your thought process behind this? Like, what are the pros that you see as far as another avenue in branding yourself?
I have to say, like, over my career, I found that you hear the saying all the time, all press is good press. There's no such thing as bad press. So, we could sit here and we could bash on GNCC today. And do you know what that would do? That would drive more people to GNCC's page to figure out what is GNCC, what are they about, what are they doing. So at the end of the day, what does that really do? It actually helps. It helps people out. Like, to be blunt, I mean, you look at Pulp MX. They talk shit on everybody, like everybody, and their average following goes up every week. Do I want to talk shit on the guys that I have to race with every single weekend and I'm personally buddies with? Absolutely not. Will I be as honest as I feel comfortable? I think I will. I'm not that's why I feel like I've been good friends with most of these guys, is because at the end of the day, like, there's been times, like, definitely where I've not seen eye to eye with some of these guys, but overall, I think everybody kind of knows where I stand as a person, not a racer. As a person, I feel like everybody knows that I am brutally honest, kind of an asshole, possibly an alcoholic. No, I mean, it's like I feel like these guys, we all really get along in XC1 right now, XC2 as well. And, I think that nobody likes hearing what they don't want to hear, which I've heard it. I've heard it about myself, and I can take it just fine. I mean, if you were to interview Caleb today about me, he would tell you the laundry list of things that he doesn't like about the way that my image is, and how, basically he thinks that some of the things that I say are uncharacteristic, and how, I should never say a lot of the stuff that I have said or will say in the future. And I respect his opinion. It's not going to piss me off, but I may question him about it. So, maybe tomorrow I'll get a text message from one of these guys. The only one, there's only one that I'm going to have to bash on. Actually, there's a couple, but like one in particular. And I just hope he doesn't take it offensively.
I'm ready for it. Who is it? Who we got?
So I guess we should talk about full gas racing. Who parked the car in the fucking yard, as Wally Woodlapper would say. I mean, the New England guys like really put on a show. Johnny G was on fire all weekend long. I think he won 11 of 12 tests. So, the guy was on rails. We expected Johnny to go fast. Like, Johnny is super fast. I can remember back in 2015.
Wicked fast.
Like, yeah, wicked fast. Fuck, I can't. That sounds like Swedish or something. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to talk with that New England accent. But
I think I ended up sounding
Johnny,
Mexican.
Yeah, I don't know what I just did, but yeah, I need to stop. I need to stop now. So, no, Johnny is obviously super fast, and the guy has got his program figured out. He's working with Caleb, I think, which has kind of helped him basically find himself and understand discipline a little bit. And I think that was the biggest thing that Johnny was missing in his career, was the discipline side. And the discipline, I think, has taken his speed and put him in a place to where he can put it to work. And I remember Johnny years ago coming out to our place, at my dad's place actually, and he came through this section that was rooty and gnarly and rough on the rear wheel, fourth gear wide. Like, everybody looked at each other when he came by, and we were like, I can remember Thad was sitting there, and he just looked over at me and he said, "What the fuck?" Like, that was it. I was sitting there like, I couldn't even respond because I was so scared watching him ride that dirt bike. Like, how does he even do it? But no, Johnny's always been really fast. I think the discipline is obviously what's showing for him. And then you've got a little bit more to the story. Like, I feel like, obviously they announced that they've got a kid on the way. So, that's going to change things as well. I mean, you got diapers, you got another mouth to feed. So, you see a lot of guys like really pick it up when they find out that they made a I think like, I don't know what it is. I mean, it obviously happened to myself as well. Like, you've got this whole different understanding of racing. So, Johnny's going to be one of those guys that this year could really overall from XC2, which we've never seen. And I think that he, if I was going to put my money on anybody doing it in the next 10 years, it would be Johnny. But, behind him, Josh Toth, which is a spitting image of watching him ride, looks like Russell Bobbitt. I think I even responded to a story. I was like, you look just like Bobbitt riding. But Toth, we obviously know, is really good at that style of racing. The test, the nailing your marks for that set amount of time. And I think his riding style favors that. GNCCs, we'll see. But, to be blunt, we know that Josh rides well there. And, I can say this because I've been that guy. Like, I know I had to change a lot of things to get to where I was better in the GNCCs. Third place in the pro class is Lane. And this one that I have to bag on a little bit. Like, I don't know what happened with Lane this weekend. Obviously, we know Lane's a phenomenal rider, but
especially at sprints. I mean, all around, but yeah.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, he is. Lane. I raced
reigning
him last
champion.
year at sprints. Like, like he's phenomenal on the field track, and we saw him win one field test all weekend. So, when you look at that, it's like, what happened? And honestly, I think it was test two. If I had to say one thing, like all weekend, to be blunt, not ragging on him, because every single rider has that mental block, whatever it may be. Like something can either trigger you to do better or worse. And some guys feed a lot on positive energy, and some guys feed on negative. So like me personally, if somebody rips my ass, I'm riding better the next test. Lane, I feel like if he wins a test, it's game over. He is on top. So, me looking from the outside in, and I could be wrong about this, but this is my speculation, Johnny crushed the second test, no doubt. And Josh rode really well there as well. And that was basically the rest of the weekend for Lane. And in his mind, he was beaten, because in his mind, he knows that he can put 4 or 5 seconds in a cross test. But if he's losing 10 or 12 in an enduro, there's no shot. We run the numbers as professional racers. We run the numbers. So he's sitting there going, there's no way I'm going to be able to beat him in enough in the cross to make it worth it in the woods. So at that point, he gave up. I think he rode differently than the way that he rode last year. But I saw it, even last year. Like I think Lane is one of those positive riders. He feeds off positivity. And then Liam.
So on the Lane thing, real quick, and once again, I don't mean to cut you off, but so he's the defending champion. We saw him win that championship last year. He's running the number 1 plate, which, shout out US Sprint Enduro. It's the first time that someone ran a number 1 plate in a series that actually had a number 1 plate. Neither here nor there, but last year that pissed me off so bad, and I don't know why. So yeah, now they actually have an earned number 1 plate. Lane has it. But getting into what you were talking about, last year we saw Johnny in the mix with the overall wins and on the overall podiums, but he was in the Pro 2 class, where he ended up wrapping up that championship. Do you think, even though that him and Lane were close at a lot of rounds last year, do you think that weighs even more on Lane's headspace or whatever you want to call it this year, knowing that they're in the same class? Like they're running the same times and racing the same races and the same people, but now they're in the same class.
I don't think so. Like, honestly, I think that we're looking at the overall either way. So
yeah,
I think that was, a lot of it was just, we're looking, no matter where Lane sat this weekend, even if Johnny was in Pro 2, he would still be focused on that overall. So I don't think that changed anything. I think the fact of just getting beat that bad in test 2 was kind of setting the pace for the rest of the weekend. As a rider, like I said, you run those numbers, you think about it. Okay, well, he just put 12 seconds there. No way. So, that's the tough part. Like, and I wasn't there to judge Lane's riding, but, I did hear that he was riding kind of uncharacteristic of Lane, based on at least the last couple seasons.
How much do you think snow and ice and frozen ground could play into that, though? Because Johnny G grew up riding frozen ground and snow and ice. Like, do you think the conditions might have had a role in it? That's where my mind went immediately, was snow.
I don't think so. I mean, Lane's from West Virginia. If he hasn't ridden snow, then I really don't think that that's it at all. I mean, slippery ground, hard slick, and frozen ground feel about the same. I know frozen ground can get a little sketchier, a little faster, but the way you ride it's still the same. So I think hard slick, which is literally all of West Virginia, is Lane's territory. And I know in the past, like hard slick days at Sprint Enduros, like Lane was almost untouchable, especially on the field side. So I don't think it's that. I really do think it's more of a mental block, which a lot of riders have, and that I'm guilty of the same. I lined up for years at National Enduros, knowing that I was going to win. I lined up at GNCC's knowing that a top 5 was good. And I think a mentality of those demoralizing days, like we watched Moose Scan this weekend in Supercross go from first to sixth in a single lap. You get passed by one guy, and it's like it's that reset, that pull a tear off, grab the breath, and reset yourself. And I think that's where some guys really struggle. And I think that Lane may possibly be one of those guys that needs to just grab a breath and reset. Because I think, overall, he's probably one of the fastest, if not the fastest guys in the U.S. Like I would be willing to say, like on the right days, like Lane is probably the fastest rider in the U.S. in the off-road. But I think a lot of times he puts too much pressure on himself to perform, and that's where we see certain guys fold. So that's kind of my thoughts on his situation this weekend. And again, I said it to start, we were going to have to bag on somebody, and hopefully Lane doesn't take it to heart. But that's my thoughts, and I could be totally wrong. Like I said, Lane and I are good buddies, so don't want him to think anything poorly. I think that everybody's got their own things, and like Lane is a positive rider. Like he's one of those guys that when things are going good, he is 100% a threat. Like he is super fast, super smooth. He never, especially in a grass track, like, dude, I followed him all last year, and I wadded my brains out trying to catch him, and I was going backwards. Like, I mean, the guy can ride a field test like unlike any rider in the U.S. Like he and Sipes, I think a lot of that's the only other guy that I would, I guess, even compare on a cross test. But then you look on the wood side, Lane's got him covered there. So that's why I say kind of all around speed, he's got it. So, this weekend I think was a fluke for Lane. I think he'll be back. And I think when we see more normal conditions and true grass tests, like it's going to be interesting to see. I know Johnny's still, he's kind of going to be like I am in the enduro test. Like he's going to have his days where he can run the pace on the cross test, but Johnny rides like I do. He slams into shit hard. Like he doesn't finesse a lot of things. He rides aggressive. So it's really good in the woods conditions where it's one line, but in a cross test where there isn't much to bank off of, you've got to really finesse it. And I think Lane is really good there. So I guess we'll just have to see what the next one holds. But I think we're going to see a lot more out of Lane. And I think it's just going to be a kind of a balancing act as to who can win more cross test versus enduro test, which is basically exactly where Lane and I were last year.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Ryan Sipes thing, and watching him race the full gases was just such an amazing thing, like a weird thing, because just like you were talking about earlier, he's the first guy that I've seen that knows he's going to give up 5 or even more seconds in the enduro test, but then he's going to go out and win the cross test by 10 or 15 seconds. And then he would win damn near every full gas that he went to for a couple years there. And so, yeah, he's the only one that I've seen that did that on a consistent basis. But like you were mentioning, Lane, he's got the speed on both sides. And I think that's why he wrapped up that championship last year or part of it. But
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's going to be the tough part. Is like Lane, Lane can win every cross test by 3 to 5 seconds. On a good day, he will. And Johnny can win every enduro test on normal conditions by 3 to 5 seconds. So, which is kind of where I was at the full gases with Lane last year. Like, and then again, that mentality thing, like it's more or less test 3. To be honest, it's test 3 that changes everything for me personally. Like it changes whether I'm going to go out and attack it again or if I'm going to kind of
so the second cross test.
Yeah, the second cross test. So cross test 1 sets the pace. I'm a slow starter, and I know that. And I'm going to say, okay, I gave up 8 seconds in test 1. all right, we'll see what we can do in this woods test. I gain 5 seconds in the woods test. Okay, well, now it's 3 seconds down. Now that next cross test, either I'm within 3 or I'm over 5. And if I'm over 5, my mentality changes. If I'm, 4 to 5 seconds off, I'm like, okay, we might be able to gain this back. I can at least time out and hope that I can gain back that 3 seconds off that first 8-second deficit in one of these enduro tests. So that's where at least my personal mind goes. So, I think that's kind of going to be where I see it going for the rest of the year is, does Johnny put enough time in the woods to make it worth it on the cross, or does Lane put too much time on it in the cross? Like, that would be my kind of outlook for the year. And then you also have to look back. Like, obviously the Pro 2 guys are fast, but that Simmons kid, he's a Pro Moto kid from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
There's no telling if he figures out the woods. Like, I get it. This weekend was a little bit different. It was sand, 250F and the sand's tough. Like, but he's one that could possibly start pulling some overalls as well. Obviously a new name, but I've seen him ride down here, and the kid he's fast. He's really fast.
Yeah, Mason Simmons you're talking about, and that was one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, and I don't want to include it to just Australia because Liam from New Zealand, so Oceania we'll call it. If you look at the top 10 results, 4 of them are from over there. And it's like they keep coming and just like you mentioned, Mason Simmons, he came over here, and everywhere that he's been so far, he's been fast, and he's proven he's fast. And he's still figuring out how our races work and how the conditions are and all that. But then Gus Reardon, he's staying with them too. Like, I think a lot of those guys are going to turn heads and kind of come out of nowhere as far as being like unfamiliar names over here on the East Coast, all of a sudden being in the mix. I think all of them have the potential to be in the mix.
Yeah, definitely. That kind of leads me to my next topic. Like I said, there was going to be 2 guys that I was going to talk shit on. The second was Lyndon, but we're going to go ahead and jump in on Liam as well. Liam rode terrible. I kind of feel bad that I associate myself with him. No, I mean, he's coming back from an injury, so I understand, like, obviously, that side of it. So, we'll wait till the next round to really throw stones at him. But he did not impress me this weekend, and he texted me kind of between tests. I know he was upset with himself, which is good. Like, obviously, I don't want to work with somebody who's not upset on their bad days. Like, I want somebody that is truly upset at themselves and trying to figure out what they need to change. And, we had dinner with Liam tonight, and he basically told us exactly what he wants to change moving forward, which is good for me, to kind of discuss with Dylan and the track trainer and Harrison, the gym trainer, to hopefully promote his riding in a different manner. I feel like we've done a lot of stuff geared towards GNCC, but he feels like his speed just isn't there, which is fine. That we can tailor that perfect to him. And obviously we're just going to have to put him out on the track with the girls and make him feel better about himself.
Let me ask you this about Liam. Do you think that he is in a prove it stage of his career over here as far
I
as
think he is. So I've always said it takes 3 years. You basically have 3 years in the GNCC world before you understand the racing. And it always takes guys 3 years to figure it out, because the track goes back, one direction, the next direction, one direction, the next direction. Liam is fast. Like, you look 2 hours into almost every GNCC and Liam's there.
Yeah.
The problem is for him, the third hour. Liam can't dig deep enough in himself to make it through 3 hours. So that's...
Damn, Stu, you're laying into everybody's damn mental game.
I mean, I'm honest.
All of you pussies.
I had that conversation with my group the other night. As a matter of fact, about 17 of them. I literally said that exact phrase. But no, I mean, the mental side is probably what I've come to find in the last few years, like more than anything is the mental side for me. So when I figured that out, unlike every other racer who thinks that we've got to go social media quiet and not say what we're learning, like I want to share it. Like, I would prefer see racing like Supercross. Like, dude, you don't know who the hell's going to win next weekend. Like, you genuinely cannot tell me who's going to win the next Supercross. I will bet you $100 right now. Who do you think? Will you take my bet if you call the winner? Or would you even consider it? I wouldn't.
I'd consider it.
Put it up. I wouldn't put it up. If I were to put $100 on it, I would say Jason Anderson.
Yeah, that's who I would go with.
He's got something to prove. He knows that he's basically got to make it, but he's also in that teetering point where I'm still almost in this championship, but I'm kind of out of it. So what the hell does it matter? So he's going to ride like that.
Yeah, and
he's really good when he rides like that. So, but in GNCC, we've got two guys. Like right now, it's you've got to figure it out. So like, to me, if I can make racing better, like I'll share every secret that I've ever learned. It may not be best, and I may not be the best instructor, and I may not be the smartest person out there. But I feel like if I've learned it and it's worked for me, like, I mean, I've worked with Steve Hatch, I've worked with Jason Raines, obviously Randy Hawk has been mentoring me. I've gone to Walker's. I've been around the block. I watched these schools growing up. Like, I've learned a little bit along the way from everybody. Caleb and I were really close in my earlier part of my career and learned a lot from him. Like, there's something to be learned around every corner, and it's not a secret. We're not recreating the wheel at the end of the day, but the mental side is what I feel right now separating the riders, because if you took every XC1 rider and XC2 rider to my track tomorrow, to Caleb's track the next day, and to New York the following, or Snowshoe, and you made us all do practice laps, and you gave us 3 warm-up laps and a 30-minute moto, but basically clear track conditions, every single one of us to the stopwatch would be within a second every lap. Like genuinely. I mean, yeah. I'm training with these guys, so I know this. Like, that's I 100% can say that Strang and I, Lyndon and I, Cody Barnes, Barbosa, Liam, whoever you want to throw in the mix, are going to be within a second on almost any track on any day. So what it comes down to is mental, because at the end of the day, you look at the end of a GNCC and you might see a 6, 10, 12-minute deficit from a guy that'll run my pace all week.
Yep.
There's guys that I lap at GNCCs, A-riders that I lap, that will put it on me on a weekend of riding. Like, just straight put it on me. And we'll go to a GNCC and I'll lap them. So, when I'm talking this mental side, I personally think that it is more important than anything. So, some guys might hear what I have to say and take it to heart and get offended, but realistically, it is my opinion. It's not, whatever. You can say what you want to say. Like, it's just personally my opinion, and you can take it and try to improve on it, or you can take it and try to hate me, or you can take it and say, you know what, that doesn't really apply to me. I thought about it. Because I've heard a lot of things about myself that people genuinely believe that do not apply to me. So, I could be wrong. I could be misled, and it could just be my personal thoughts. But Liam's one of those guys that he just can't dig deep enough. Like, when it comes to that make it or break it, as you say, I don't know that he's going to dig deep enough in that tank to make it. Does he have the speed? Absolutely. Does he know how to race GNCCs now? Yes. Does he know how to make passes when needed? Yes. He's got the full package, except that little thing that says, my body's shutting down, my mind is not reading the course anymore, my fingers can't pull the clutch in, I'm going to reset, and I'm going to forget all about that. I don't remember. I hardly remember the third hour of a GNCC. When I dig into that tank and I want it, there's no other better feeling of accomplishment, but also there is this distinguished line that you have to cross as a rider to make it.
And you say that, and that is such a big part of it. And I feel like the mentality, especially in that third hour, takes over and means more. Like, I think a guy that isn't in as good a shape will beat the guy that is at absolute max efficiency as far as their training and everything is concerned. I think the guy with the stronger mental is going to take over in that third hour. Just like you said, being able to push through that, dig deep, and get through. I mean, I grew up wrestling my whole life, and so I feel like if I didn't do that and work my way up through that system, when I didn't ride a dirt bike till I was 21. And honestly, late in those races, granted, I'm not going faster than hardly anybody out there, but still out there riding for the same time and pushing through it. And that's one of the things that I wonder about is like somebody that's never, or how you find that grit and push through as it relates to racing. And that's one thing that you've recognized and you've changed about yourself. So the mental part of it is such a big thing. But you said earlier that you would go to a GNCC thinking that a top 5 was good. So how did you wrap your mind around that to go out there and, hey, I'm going to win this race?
I lost my job. I got absolutely screwed. I sold half the toys that I had acquired over the good years of my career, and I had no money coming in, and I got to the point that I had to win. And when I lined up at West Virginia and I had to win, it wasn't, are you going to win? It was, I have to win.
So that's when you made that switch in your mind, was when that whole thing went down?
100%. Obviously, that deal sucked. It was nothing I would wish upon anybody, but, I was buried deep in attorney bills, medical bills, and empty promises, and I had to win. So me personally, that was, I got done with that race and I was like, that was good, but there's $5,000 in my pocket for winning that race. I still got to win. I've got a lot more bills than that. So, the second round, I lined up and I looked up and down the line, and I knew I was going to win that day. I had spent 40 minutes testing. I was on a new bike. The bike that I was racing was another rider's older practice bike that was clapped out, and it didn't matter to me. Nothing else mattered. But I knew when I looked up and down that line that I was the only guy there that came to win that race. And Caleb was still on the line at that point. And I looked past Caleb like he didn't matter to me. He no longer mattered to me. I can remember it's funny, like I should have listened earlier, but I heard it. I just didn't listen. Caleb at one point said something to me that I now see very clearly that I didn't at that point. He said, "What are you worried about during the season? Why are you so worried about beating me?" And I said, "Because you're the guy to beat. Like you are that guy." And he goes, "Okay." He said, "So I'm focused on myself and you're focused on me." And he turned around and walked away. And that was it.
Damn.
And
mic drop.
I sat there and I was like, fuck you. Like, I mean, honestly, that was my first thought. Like, no, like, you can kiss my ass. But I didn't understand what he was saying at that time. Was stop focusing on me and focus on you. And that has been probably the biggest turning point. You know, when I lined up, I had to win those races for me. I had to, not just for finances, but also to know that I could do it. I had to win those races. So when I sit on a GNCC line anymore, I look up and down that line, and I've got to win for me. It doesn't matter who's beside me. I could line up at a Supercross tomorrow, and I may suck, but I'm going to look up and down that line like I'm there to win. Because if you don't, you stand no shot at all. And I may not be the best rider in the world, but I'm a damn good racer because of it. Because I've learned that, and that's probably one of the toughest things to learn. But there is a lot more to understand than just that. I mean, you've got to have a level head. Even at that point when you know you've got to win, you have to have a level head to make sure that you can win, because to finish first, you got to first finish. And that's something that, you know, I should be talking shit on Caleb just because I expected this podcast to be a little more shit talk. So maybe next time. But like, you look back and the
Instagram stories are disappointing people.
I know. I'm telling you. You can't look back at that guy's career and really say a whole lot. But you know, one thing is he had one DNF in like what, 8 years. Like, the guy knew how to finish, and he always made it count. So at some point, you've got to have a certain amount of racecraft to understand, like, hey, the bike's getting hot, it's getting rutted, it's getting muddy, or hey, I'm not faster than this guy today. Let him win. You know, I think there was a lot of days where Caleb was doing math in his head and knew where he needed to finish, and knew that, okay, this guy doesn't matter. He's ahead of me today, but it doesn't matter. So, you know, there's got to be the point to where in your mind, you have to think about those things. 3 hours is a long time. You find out a lot about yourself in that 3-hour race. So, you know, I think there was a lot of times to where I also was considering that. I mean, all season long, I told my mechanics to only tell me where Ben was on the track. I didn't care about anybody else. And it wasn't that I was focused on Ben. I was focused on being where I needed to be. I wanted to know what position Ben was in, not just where he was on the track. I wanted to know exactly, if I gave up a position, is it okay? Is it safe? You know, am I gonna get to the point where I'm giving too much risk? And I think that's some of the stuff that I personally saw through Caleb's career that I watched him do. He was very calculated. And I think that, you know, some of that has to be in play as well. You have to know that you're the guy to beat, but you also have to know when you've got to fold your cards, and not chase your money. You know, there's a lot more on the line than just winning a race on that day. So, now that was some of the big things, but again, it's all mental stuff. It's all mind games. At the end of the day, you know, what really I feel like separates the riders is being able to break through, being able to know that you're the guy to beat, being able to push yourself to that next level that nobody can touch, a level that you don't even think you're capable of reaching. And while doing all of this, being level-headed enough to understand what is going on you around the track, or in your pit, or in your body. There's so much that is in play. So, you know, when I look back at this group of riders, like, you honestly look back kind of basically to XC2 and beyond, I'm trying to figure out, like, who's the next guy? Like honestly, I mean, you look back through, like, Grant, Lane, myself, Caleb, Corey Buttrick, like, all these guys, like, there was so much talent that came through for so long. And now you look back and, like, okay, there's a couple quick kids, but, like, dude, we were pulling, like, top 20 overalls our second year out of mini bikes. All of us, like, every one of us. We were at 16, 17, we were signing pro deals, like Not, I'm going to 200A and hopefully going to win this class so that I can go to 250A next year and for the following, and then maybe work my way to XC2. Like we were straight to the top, and you don't see that anymore. Like, I think a lot of it's just the soft side of men anymore. They're not men, they're boys. And
everybody's pussies.
Again, yeah, trademark it. Like, well, let's make a shirt. But yeah, I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. Like, I look back and I'm like, okay, so you got Cole Forbes, Grant Davis, and JoJo Cunningham. Well, JoJo Cunningham, that's a tough son of a bitch. I wouldn't want to mess with him. Grant Davis, he's a little on the soft side. He's not near as headstrong as his brother was. Great rider though. Cole Forbes, he's got a lot to figure out in his own head. He's fast. He's got a lot to figure out on his own head. So,
I think he surprised me the most over the weekend, seeing him racing the way that he did. I mean, to my knowledge, this is his first race on big bikes, and I mean, he was right up front the whole time.
Yeah, he's just a really good rider. I mean, all those kids are. Like, they're really, really good riders. I think it's going to be – I think we're going to see lap times for the first few rounds of Cole fading like a $2 T-shirt by the end of the race. Now, will that change? I think so. Kids like that, he was dominant. He doesn't like losing. Yeah. So that's the only reason that I brought up Grant Davis, JoJo Cunningham, and Cole Forbes. Those are the only three that I see that are really, really there because they were so dominant in their early years. They can't be beat. Like, in their mind, they cannot be beaten. They're going to figure out a way to win. It's still, I mean, realistically, JoJo, after this injury, he'll probably have to run A class again. So him and Grant will kind of be on the same, second year A class, realistically, XC2 the following year. Then probably whoever wins a championship, they're looking at redemption. So they'll have 3 years in XC2. I mean, it's 5 years before we're going to see these guys on top. So that's kind of my calculation. Like, we're not going to see another, I think Johnny G, but aside from that, we're not going to see another guy come on scene from behind this group that's here until those kids come through. Like, and I could be wrong. Like, there's guys that just a switch flips one day, but I don't see another guy, being at least a Caleb Russell. And I don't even think I'll ever be a Caleb Russell. Like, I don't want anybody to get that misconception. Like, I'm too big. I've hit the ground too many times. I'm trying to wrap this shit up as soon as possible. But I love racing. I do, but man, it hurts. So, but no, I mean, you look back there, the talent pool is just, it's weak compared to what it was in years past. I mean, there was a few years there where it was just flooded with talent, like real talent. I mean, fast guys. And now you've got to have so much more to the package. So, I think it'll be interesting to see who comes through, but that's the only three kids that I even see on the, on the block. Like, they're the only ones there. So that's in the amateur ranks. And a minute ago you said you kind of give somebody 3 years to really adapt to that XC2 class. Someone coming into their third year in that XC2 class, Lyndon Snodgrass, coming off of a win to end the season last year, coming off of several podiums. I think he's one of those guys that has really figured it out, and I think that he'll be one to watch this coming year, just from everything that he's been putting together. And like I said, going into his third year over here, and now used to that third hour, used to the tracks and all that kind of stuff. Who do you think is going to be the biggest standout or the biggest surprise, whether it's XC1 or XC2? Like, which one of those guys that are already in the pro class, who do you think is going to turn heads the most and have the most surprising year? That's a very, very tough one.
I'll tell you mine, and you can think of yours. And I'm going to say it again. I already talked about it. I'm going to bring him up again. Gus Reardon, they're from Australia too. He's been racing out on the West Coast, and now they're coming over to race East Coast this year, and he's racing GNCC and some sprints. He's only 16, 17, 18 tops, and the only GNCC or the only couple GNCCs he's done, he's running right up there at the front. So I think he's going to, and you mentioned Mason Simmons too. I think both of them, but I'm going to lean towards Gus. I think he's going to kind of open a lot of eyes this year.
You know, I guess as far as opening eyes goes, I would say that, yeah, probably one of those kids. Mason is super fast, but it's going to take him a little time. Personally, I hate these foreigners. They're just coming over here to take they're coming over here to take our damn jobs. But, no, they've got
there's only so many deals out there.
That whole group has a really good mentor. Josh Strang is probably one of the most calculated riders there's ever been.
I agree.
You watch him ride, and he could be putting time on you, and it looks like he's trail riding. Josh is so good at riding edges, finding edges, putting the power where it needs to go. So that whole group, I would say, being where they are and what they're doing through the week, I kind of know their program. Where Josh is, he's big on recovery, which I am as well, and he's got these guys on a pretty good program. I think that any of those guys, I'm with you. They could really be threats. I've still got to say, I mean, I'm a Johnny G fan. I love the kid's style. He's just got that I don't give a damn style. And
don't get me wrong. 2 years ago, Johnny had that championship all but wrapped up and then ended up getting hurt. And then last year dominated that class. I am a big Johnny G guy as well, but he's been at the top. He's been there. He's been winning races. So I guess where I'm coming from, I didn't mean, like, I think Johnny's going to be at the top of the class, but I think everyone expects him to be there.
Yeah. I got you. That's tough to say. I would have to kind of bank on you as far as the new kid on the block, the new guy that's going to make a regular would be one of those guys. There's a big mix though. I mean, there's so many guys that are one step away. You look through, you're like, okay, well, Liam, if you can figure out that third hour, he's going to be there every weekend. Cause you look at hour 2, every race last year, he was in the front. If he wasn't leading, he was top 3. Craig DeLong.
Yeah.
XC1. Craig is a listener, which is, the more kids that I've trained, the more I've realized that I hate people like myself who prefer talking than listening. And Craig is one of those guys who listens well,
like coachable,
and very coachable. So you look at somebody like Craig with the presence of the guys that he's with, hanging out with Caleb, he could really, really do something at XC1. I could see him finishing 3rd next year. Like if I were to sit here today and say, like, if I was going to put money on positions, like, personally, I would have to say that he would be the 3rd place guy next year. Which I don't know.
That's big.
I could be completely wrong, but I think that Craig's going to really surprise some people, because I just know, being around Craig enough over the years, like, he's a very coachable person. I could be completely backwards with this, but I think it's going to take him a few races to get his feet wet. XC1's it's a lot different than XC2. It's really tough, especially when the XC2 guys pass you that you've always beat, and now you're an XC1. I mean, I've been there. It hurts, but it makes you want it that much more. And then, you got So we discussed Liam.
Who gets their first overall win first? Craig DeLong or Josh Toth, even though Josh Toth already has one with an asterisk.
Josh's riding style does not suit GNCC. Not right now. That's just my thought. Josh is one of the most likable guys in the pits. Probably one of my best friends around that I race in XC1. Like, I'm not bashing on him, but he is a national enduro rider, and he is so good at it. I think Josh's focus is at national enduros, so I think that's where he's going to be right now. So if I would have to say XC1 win, it's going to be tough, but I would have to say Craig before Josh, because I think Josh's focus is elsewhere, which is totally fine because mine was, as I stated, for years. I mean, from 2012 to 2017, I was focused on national enduro. It wasn't until winter of 2016 when I started working with a different trainer that said, why are we training for enduros again? Like, you've won these. You've won them 3 times or 2 times, whatever it was at that point. He said, why don't we focus on GNCC? And, that was what we did that following year. But Josh, I think, is kind of where I was at that point in my career, to where he is focused on national enduros, which is fine. It's a paycheck. It's where he thrives. It's where his mentality is. And he rides them really well. So overall, hats off to him. I love the enduros. That's, if I could pick one series above all, it would probably be some type of enduro series. I don't see eye to eye with the owners of National Enduro. They've been, kind of offsetting to me at times, and but that is my favorite style of racing. That's my favorite form of racing. So, as a series, the GNCCs, they're definitely my family. I mean, Carrie Jo, I could call her right now. She'd pick up the phone at 10:45 p.m. So, but the enduros is where that's my stuff, and I think Josh is kind of there. So that's my personal thoughts. Sorry for the rant, but that's kind of where I stand on that.
No, that's all good insight, good information. I can definitely see where you're coming from, but Josh Toth did win a race already. But yeah,
are we allowed to say that on here? We're gonna get in trouble. Somebody's calling me in the morning. I don't know who, but somebody's calling in the morning.
No, man, I think this has been.
I think I'm getting 4 phone calls in the morning.
Nah, we've been pretty tame. I think Lane Michael might want to them body slam you or something, but no, I'm just kidding. No, man, I think this was a really cool first episode, and I think this is something that's gonna be really cool going throughout the season. So, I think getting your perspective, like a lot of stuff we just dove into, you also have a way of explaining yourself and your thought process really well, and I think a lot of people relate to that. And so, I appreciate the rants and appreciate you going into detail, and I'm looking forward to these things, especially as the season gets going and we get right in the thick of it and right in the middle of it, to be able to hear your thoughts real time as far as what's going on. I think this is the beginning of something cool.
So I guess I've got to figure out, like, who's gonna, are you gonna shit talk me? Because if I'm just here bashing on everybody else, like, I mean, really, like, maybe we need to call Caleb up. Like, I don't know. I can definitely, maybe see if he's interested. He probably wouldn't have time for something.
Who did you say you broke up?
I said maybe I should call Caleb up. He might not have time for something silly like this, but like somebody is going to have to sit around here and bash on me. So, like, who is it going to be? At this point, I would say the next phone call should be Lane. Like, I picked on him pretty heavily this time, and maybe maybe just out of spite, seeing as he worked my ass last year at the Sprint Enduros. But no, we're just gonna have to figure out who's the guy that gets to bash on me now.
The lane stuff, I think, came off as constructive criticism. I mean, there was a lot of good things, and that's the issue that I've ran into doing these things. And just like you said, you might get some phone calls, and you'll learn it now as well. But it's like everything that gets said, depending on who hears it, when they hear it, how they hear it, it can kind of get interpreted a lot of different ways. So I took nothing but positive stuff from the lane thing.
Well, I am an asshole. So people are probably going to go ahead and just say that. So I guess at the end of the day, you really didn't say anything wrong. So, of course, you took up a bunch of positives. Like, personally, as a rider who's been in a position to where things just aren't working out, or you're so frustrated with yourself on the weekend, like, that's the last thing you want to hear. So if Lane listens to this, just know that it was 100% out of spite for you beating me so bad last year at the sprints, especially across this.
See, look, that clears it all up.
But no, I mean, it does. Like, I feel like everybody does cast their own opinion. It's easy for fans, spectators, racers, whoever it may be, sponsors, team managers, to throw stones because they don't understand where you are mentally, physically, whatever. So take with whatever I say, take it with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, wow, I don't know if you can hear my kid, but he is really pissed off. Mom's trying to put him in the crib right now. He does not like sleeping in the crib. But no, I mean, take everything that I say with a grain of salt, because that's my opinion. It could be completely inaccurate. He may have had bike troubles. He may have, tweaked his thumb before the race. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. So, and that's kind of what this podcast, I hope, will be appreciated for. And if not, if we're outcast by the industry, then we'll just keep doing it anyway.
Nothing will change for me.
Perfect. So just for me. Great.
No, I still got OTP Tuesdays going on Tuesdays. So if anybody has a problem with anything, however Stu has victimized you over the course of this past hour and 10 minutes, let me know. We'll get you on OTP Tuesday, and then that is where everybody gets their revenge back on you, Stu.
Perfect. Let them know. Yeah. Every Tuesday you can talk all the shit you want. I will take it with a smile on my face.
There we go. Hey, but if there's some mishaps along the way, man, I'm gonna have to come on here and make you answer for them too. So it's gonna go both ways.
I will. I guess I'll have to. I think I lost service that week.
Training at Ranch Russell the week after a bad race.
Yeah. Maybe we're gonna. Yeah, exactly.
Well, hey man, I'll let you get back to the kid, get him down to bed. Once again, thank you so much for your time. Co-host Steward Baylor, we're gonna be talking to you throughout the season, and like I said, man, I'm looking forward to it, and can't thank you enough for your time and willingness to do it. And we'll have to start keeping a tally of how many people we piss off along the way.
Oh, well, mark down 3 or 4 already.
Perfect. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks then.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.